Hello, my name is Kalina. Today I chose my topic to be test anxiety. The article I chose was Measuring Test Anxiety in Primary and Middle School Children. All right, so to get into it, my main points. The article I chose, it was a informative article about test anxiety with students in primary and middle school. This article elaborates on what test anxiety looks like and different tools and the outcomes and effects. So, my 4 points that I'll be diving into today. Number one, what is test anxiety? Number two, effects test anxiety have on students. Number three, how to identify students with test anxiety. And then number four, tools used to measure test anxiety. All right. So, what is test anxiety? Test anxiety is a common psychological phenomenon characterized by a state of intense fear, nervousness, and psychological arousal experienced in anticipation of or during an exam or test situation. So, myself, like many others, assuming, I guess, have test anxiety. So, when you're about to take a test, it's the sweats, the pus, the sweaty palms, the rapid heart rate, the you're feeling really hot, you're starting to sweat. That is test anxiety. Effects test anxiety can have on students. Test anxiety can follow you through all of school and even into your adult years when you have test anxiety. So it can start off young. It happened to me. My test anxiety is not as bad as it used to, but I'm kind of an example. You can start off at an early age and get a test and you failed your test or you got a bad grade on your test and that can leave you with negative thoughts in your head like, "Oh, I'm a failure." There's negative connotation when it comes to grading. There's definitely a debate on whether grades are good or bad, and these are one of the topics to bring up, I guess, in the grading being a negative connotation because it the grade isn't supposed to define the student, and that's what students think. They think that their grade defines them, so if they fail, they feel like a failure. And then that can develop into, I'm gonna fail this next test, or I fail test, or I'm not good at taking tests, and it develops into test anxiety. So, exams or test anxiety may be seen as threatening. Higher test anxiety can lead to lower test scores as well as lower grades. Performance in class compared to on a test can be different. So, what I mean by this is, let's say the topic is math and a student is really good in class. They're on point, they have everything down, but when it comes to the chapter test, they're experiencing test anxiety and it can result to them in overthinking and not putting down the correct answer and turning out to be a bad grade compared to how they actually do perform it well in class. Um, High levels of self-doubt and negative thoughts about oneself arise, so that rabbit hole of negative thoughts going in a loop during a test. Identifying students with test anxiety. So, test anxiety can be identified through students physically, you can see. Um, it's really important that you can identify these students so you can give them the proper support for their future success. So there's atomic reaction, which is a increase of heart rate, stomach and or headache, and physical behaviors involve fidgeting with pencil maybe, wandering eyes, looking around at the ceiling. I That's my personal favorite. Um, and then avoidance. So avoidance kind of ties back into atomic reaction with the stomach ache and headache. A student may wake up the day of the test and they're having anxiety the moment they wake up. And the stomach ache can lead to telling mom, I don't feel good, I can't go to school today. So that's kind of where avoidance can tie in. And then ways to help students with test anxiety is have a discussion with parents, kind of build a plan, have homework be focused on at home, reviewing and studying. Just have a discussion with students as well. Reassure them with review and also tell them that there's not going to be any, jump scares. It's going to be everything that was learned in class and provide relaxation techniques. So you could give them a little tip like smell the roses, blow out the candles. So a breathing technique is definitely something that can help before taking the test. So right as you hand them out, have like all the students, okay, let's smell the roses and then blow out the candles and then begin the test. The tools used in this article to identify test anxiety was Children's Test Anxiety Scale. This is a self-report tool for children in grades from 3 to 6 based on a 30 item rated on a 4-point Likert scale, which provides scores with involvement of thoughts, off-task behaviors, atomic reactions. Um, some of these questions could be like, do you feel nervous during a test? And then the answer would be yes, always, never, or I mean, always, never, or sometimes could be like the answers to those for like a little, like an evaluation. And then there's test anxiety scale for elementary students and test anxiety measure for adolescents. So these are more specific, like more detail tools to use. They're designed to assess four distant subscales of test anxiety, physiological hyperarousal, social concerns, task irrelevant behaviors, and worry. And then the article also mentioned that these are these can be limited. They're more accessible in the US, but countries like Europe, they are not as accessible. So the resources for students with test anxiety isn't where it should be. So the research is still, at least in the article explained, the research is still an ongoing to find better and more resources for students with test anxiety. And that was my presentation. Thank you.